or like I think for an entrepreneur, it's advised that you just focus on the business side and hire experts for anything related to finance.
Welcome to a new episode of chaipekharcha. Go into finer points related to finance now. So we'll go back a bit when you were not an entrepreneur, when you were a professional living in Singapore as an NRI, and then we'll come back as an entrepreneur. When you were in Singapore, when you came from India, uh, were there any specific finance related decisions like investments into particular products that you chose after coming to Singapore? या you just continued जो इंडिया में कर रहे थे वही जारी रखा है सिंगापुर में ऐसा कुछ अलग नहीं किया?
I think I just continued. So maybe I upped the scale because my salary went up a little and all of that. So I maybe like 2x or 3x my investments or like my monthly investing power. But otherwise, and I'm not a very, I would say, not a very knowledgeable investor. I just know few instruments, and since I can't spend much time on that, I try to diversify them in different asset classes as much as possible. What like this is before I moved to Singapore. I used to invest in equity mostly. Like apart from mutual funds and stuff, whatever like goes into this ATC. ATC is where you get like the what do you call it, rebate, tax rebate. So whatever gets me tax rebate, I used to invest in that. My next little bit more riskier investment would be equity. So I started buying stocks of companies at least I have heard names of, and companies which interest me. I was a very naive investor. I had no idea how to read like whatever performance reports and stuff. So I mostly used to invest something which I believe would be good. There were small cases which I used to invest in. Small cases actually helped me quite a lot. Uh, Cryptocurrency was another one. I got to know about Bitcoin in 2016. So I had bought some Bitcoin, but I sold most of it again before the next bull run. But through Bitcoin, I got to know that there are other such cryptocurrencies which I can invest in. So that was something which I continued doing. When I moved to Singapore, I think I just doubled down mostly on equity and a little bit more on cryptocurrency. That was mostly till when I was in Singapore. Do you want me to continue like my journey afterwards? Like how did this thing work out?
But a clarification on what you just said in terms of you didn't foray into the Singapore or the US market after coming into
Oh,
Singapore. You continued in the
so
Indian market only.
initially I was mostly in Indian market, but after like couple of years, I forayed into US market.
Got it. But this was within Singapore या पहले ही था?
No, with Singapore. Like this was after
With
coming to.
Singapore. Got it. Got it.
So
And this
that's
was
where
primarily
I this where I like double X or 3x my investment, that I started diversifying into markets. कि Indian market में हो गया तो let's like invest a little bit in US market too.
got it. And this was, I'm assuming, primarily because of the exposure we got as Singapore-based NRIs as opposed to
हाँ,
India में रह के.
हाँ।
ना?
इंडिया में रह के आइडिया ही नहीं था कि कैसे खुलवाना है अकाउंट
Right.
यूएस का। तो वहां
Right.
पर सिंगापुर में इंटरेक्टिव ब्रोकर था, तो दे आस्क्ड मी कि खुलवाना है, मैं कहा हाँ खुलवाना है। तो ऐसे ही हुआ।
सही है. सही है. Okay, let's continue to then after Singapore. I am sure there would be certain decisions you had to make financially in terms of holdings वगैरह जब सिंगापुर से आप इंडिया गए इन पता नहीं कोई एसेट्स बेचने पड़े आपको क्योंकि आप इंडिया जा रहे हो. दिस इज बिफोर एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप. Just as a person moving countries, what specific decisions you had to take?
ऐसे एसेट्स तो कुछ नहीं बेचने पड़े मुझे, क्योंकि सिंगापुर में एक तो मोस्टली यही था, इक्विटी थी, क्रिप्टो करेंसीज थी और मेरी सेविंग्स थी, तो बेचना तो कुछ नहीं पड़ा। स्लोली आई स्टार्टेड मूविंग माय सेविंग्स। मतलब इक्विटी में तो अभी भी मैं वेस्टेड हूँ। आई डोंट थिंक आई हैव सोल्ड एनीथिंग येट, क्योंकि 2022 में पूरा मार्केट भी बहुत डाउन था, सो इट डिड नॉट मेक एनी सेंस टू सेल दैट। तो आई जस्ट कंटिन्यूड वेस्टेड। आई एक्चुअली जस्ट लाइक पुट इन मोर मनी कि मैं इंडिया लाने से अच्छा थोड़ा और इन्वेस्ट कर देता हूँ। which turned out to be a good decision, honestly. Apart from that, I think सिंगापुर से वापस आते टाइम कुछ बेचा नहीं, कोई एसेट क्लास ऐसे क्लोज नहीं करी मैंने. जब वापस आया देन आई थॉट कि अब पैसा कहीं से आ नहीं रहा है, तो वट एवर आई हैव आई वुड रादर इन स्टार्ट इन्वेस्टिंग इट. तो फिर आई एक्चुअली डाइवर्सिफाइड लिटिल बिट मोर. आई स्टार्टेड इन्वेस्टिंग इन रियल एस्टेट लाइक लिटिल बिट. कि वो भी एक, आई फील कि वो भी एक जरूरत होती है कि. एंड अनदर थिंग व्हिच आई लर्नड वाज कि इक्विटी एंड ऑल दिस इज गुड, it gives you good returns, but you also need assets which can make you money. So for me, there were two such assets. One is a house which you could rent out, and another one is some sort of business which you're doing, like a startup. So I thought कि स्टार्टअप तो कर ही रहे हैं, उसमें तो मतलब जो होगा देखी जाएगी. तो एक ये रियल एस्टेट में भी थोड़ा इन्वेस्ट करते हैं. माई ओनली ऑब्जेक्टिव वाज टू डाइवर्सिफाई. Plus, I had a cousin who was working in real estate, so I thought कि he would know कि क्या चल रहा है इधर उधर. तो I used to go with him, do some surveys. तो ऐसे करके थोड़ा बहुत जान पहचान करके मैंने फिर रियल एस्टेट में इन्वेस्ट कर दिया. So that's how I diversified a little bit more.
हाउ डिड यू कुछ टैक्सेशन में कुछ पर्टिकुलर चीज देखने की जरूरत होती है जब आप स्पेशली जब आप जैसे बोल रहे हो कि एसेट्स आपके सिंगापुर में हैं, आप वापस इंडिया मूव हो गए, हाउ डज द टैक्सेशन वर्क देयर?
तो एक तो जब तक आप सिंगापुर में हो तब तक तो डुअल टैक्सेशन ट्रीटी होती है सिंगापुर और इंडिया की. तो उस पर तो टैक्स हो गया जो आपकी सेविंग है, सिंगापुर ने ले लिया. सो दैट इज ऑल योर मनी, यू कैन ब्रिंग इट बैक. मुझे चैलेंज आएगा इसमें कि अब जो स्टॉक्स हैं अगर मैं वो बेचूंगा तो फिर आई विल बी टैक्स अकॉर्डिंग टू इंडिया. बट आई हैड नो अदर चॉइस, क्योंकि 2022 में अगर मैं तब में बेचता तो थिंग्स वर एट ऑल टाइम लो. लाइक मेरे को मतलब पेनीज मिलते, तो उससे अच्छा तो आई थॉट आई विल रादर लाइक लेट इट ग्रो. एंड सिंस आई डोंट नीड मनी अर्जेंटली, आई वुड, if like if everything works out fine and no emergency happens, or like there is no bad thing which happens, then I would rather let them grow for like tens of years or maybe more. So after that I'll pay tax. I'll be more than happy to pay 30% tax उसके बाद. उससे पहले 22 में बेचने का मतलब कोई पॉइंट ही नहीं लग रहा था मुझे कि मैं टैक्स बचाने के लिए बेचूं भी, तो कोई पॉइंट नहीं है. तो अब आगे चल के बेचूंगा तब प्रॉब्लम होगी टैक्सेशन की. टैक्स प्रॉब्लम भी क्या होगी, लाइक इन मोस्ट ऑफ द अकाउंट्स दे गेट टू नो दैट यू हैव मूव्ड, योर टैक्स रेजिडेंसी चेंजेस, सो दे आल्सो अपडेट दोस थिंग्स. तो वो हो ही गया ऑटोमेटिकली.
ऑटोमेटिकली हो जाता है.
या
Got it.
So there is
अच्छा,
something called
ठीक.
W8 Ben form that you fill up every time. Every year, your bank normally reaches out and says you need to confirm your tax residency status. So fill up this W8 Ben form, specifically for US investments. In
Yeah.
that, you have to confirm where you are living and where you are a tax resident of. When if in that form, if you say Singapore, they know there is no tax to pay because Singapore doesn't have long-term capital gains, and they also have a double taxation treaty with the US. So you don't end up paying any tax for this. But when you declare you are in India, तो उस टाइम पे they will automatically, your broker, in most cases your broker itself will do withholding of tax before they give you the proceeds. Otherwise, and you'll have to do the filing also based on whatever you've sold. So, but what I'd be interested in, I'm not sure, Dhruv, you figured this out yet, is it 30%, is it 10%, is it 15%, like which tax applies? Is it income tax that will apply, or is it capital gains that will apply? Because these proceeds are not, because these are not necessarily from the Indian market. No, I don't know US वाले में कौन सा वाला tax apply करेगा, because while we are overseas, हमारे को अभी तक तो capital gains का is not necessarily a problem. I am also wondering if I move back to India, what will be the taxation like?
तो इट्स लिटिल कॉम्प्लिकेटेड टू बी ऑनेस्ट, मुझे भी बहुत क्लैरिटी नहीं है. बट ये कि एक तो मैंने बहुत चीजें बेची नहीं है. आई प्रॉब्ली सोल्ड लाइक वेरी स्मॉल इक्विटी ऑप्शंस. तो ऐसा कोई मेजर अभी तक कुछ चैलेंज आया नहीं है. दूसरी चीज ये कि लॉन्ग टर्म और शॉर्ट टर्म गेन्स तो है ही, चाहे आप इंडिया में इन्वेस्ट करो या बाहर इन्वेस्ट करो. तो इफ इट्स मोर देन 1 year वेस्टेड तो फिर 10% लगेगा, उससे कम पे 20% लगेगा. कुछ ऐसे और चीज़ें हैं जैसे कि आई थिंक पेंशन प्लान वगैरह है, तो उसमें अब मुझे पता करना है कि अपना जो पेंशन प्लान होता था कि उसमें अब टैक्स रेजिडेंसी चेंज हो रही है, तो फिर क्या होगा वो मुझे पता नहीं है. लाइक दैट समथिंग व्हिच आई हैव टू फाइंड आउट, क्योंकि दैट्स नॉट लाइक अ इक्विटी इन्वेस्टमेंट. आई फील दैट विल बी काउंटेड एज माय सैलरी, तो इट विल बी टैक्स्ड एट 30%.
That is a good, again, not sure, not, it's a good question. Although I liquidated that already, so वो already आ गया. I didn't want to
अच्छा.
keep anything linked to salary or RSUs.
Yeah.
Like RSUs I haven't sold yet, but I will if I leave, because I don't want to leave any of that for figuring out later. If I can get that tax free now, I'd rather get that tax free now.
But right now, are you a Singapore tax resident?
I'm At the moment, yes. Since I'm not an
Then,
Indian tax resident, so still a
yeah,
Singapore
then
tax
it
resident.
makes sense. It makes sense for you to like sell it and leave, because right now stocks are also doing good, so why
Yeah.
not?
Okay. So now let's move on to the piece of where you are an entrepreneur in India. So you did mention that you have a CA, and you also mentioned that you did not take VC funding. So what are the three, four special things that one should take note of while from a finance perspective while being an entrepreneur in India?
I think like keeping the business side of it, or like I think for an entrepreneur, it's advised that you just focus on the business side and hire experts for anything related to finance. Some people I have seen trying to do manage the financial side itself, or like themselves. There are a couple of tools like Zoho Book, Tally. People tend to like use them. But what I've realized is that if you are building a business, uh, and financially also, like you will spend all of your time and money on that building that business bit, right? You will like multiple kind of expenses, so you can as a like because you're building a business to grow, right? So you can also take out an expense for finances, so like hiring a CA who will do the job for you. You can like rather thinking of saving money on that side, I would say negotiate and get a good deal, but get that thing sorted out, because you might not do the best job there. And even for like a bad job, you will spend like good amount of your time. So rather you take out money, throw money at the problem, get a CA who can do it for you. Rather you trying
This
to figure out those tools.
this is a very interesting answer, sir. In terms of split, what percentage, if you hire a CA, what percentage would you end up paying a CA from the money you have allocated for the startup or from the money you're earning out of it?
I would say for this, it has to be around, maybe these things will change when you grow. But for me, if I have to put it in percentage, it will be like 1-2%, not more than like 4% any day. So yeah.
But CA mostly क्या देख रहा है? Taxation का देख रहा है और
So
क्या
CA,
देख रहा है finance?
CA does like a lot of things throughout the year. That's mostly like roughly though that's around taxation only. But government asks
Okay.
you to file these audit reports annually. Uh, every time you pay someone, whether a vendor or seller, or sorry, or a employee, there is a TDS. Uh, there are what do you call different taxation slabs for who you are paying versus who you are getting the money from, right? Your returns needs to be filed. I think after every quarter you need to file returns as a startup. And there was another important thing which I forgot. Yeah. So there are these initiatives which a startup could avail, like Startup India, which your CA helps you with that. Like otherwise, for me, I did not know. But CA comes and they say like, अरे यहाँ पर भी तो कर लो, यहाँ पर tax benefit मिल जाएगा और इस type की चीजें. So I think it's a good value add to get a CA.
Uh, just one more question related to this, not concerning the CA, but concerning employees. So you start a startup, you have to start getting people in. Uh, and I always imagine that a startup at the stage you are at, or even earlier or slightly later, would always have this conundrum कि भाई पैसे दें या इक्विटी दें, और अगर पैसे दे रहे हैं तो कितने दें, इक्विटी दे रहे हैं तो कितने दें? हाउ डू यू, इज देयर अ फ्रेमवर्क टू मेक दोस डिसीजंस?
I am sure there must be, but अभी मेरे को नहीं पता है. I believe in this कि if you really want to work with someone, give them equity. And if you just are working with someone because you don't have that expertise yet, and you that's something which you don't want to spend your time on, then you pay them salary. Uh, so yeah, if you want someone to stick along, not just for their skill set, but also for like what kind of attitude they bring to the table, uh, how uh, helpful they are in general for the company, and also like if they're smart enough. If someone has like all these qualities, then you give them equity. Otherwise, you get your work done by paying them money.
Got it. ठीक है.
Because I've realized that hiring is very difficult. Like, because you might get someone who will crack the interview, who will impress you during the interview, but then they will like not do actually good work. And if you
Yeah.
give such people like a lot of equity, then that will become unnecessary burden on you and on your company, and it's a lifelong burden. And so I believe like yeah, you have to be a little mindful about giving equity to someone.
ठीक है. So we'll come to a question that we actually before that, Ishan, do you have any specific questions around entrepreneurial expenses / finances? I'm going to move on to the
Yeah,
concluding part.
my question is more towards what are your current crypto holdings like?
Ah, crypto
What
holdings, like. So this is something me and Dhruv used to have a lot of discussions on.
Crypto.
Let's get to that.
Sorry, I did not get the last part of it. What are your current crypto?
what are your current crypto holdings like? So कौन सी currencies में invest कर रखा है? You said Bitcoin बेच दिया, so और कौन सा है?
नहीं बिटकॉइन आई बॉट बिटकॉइन अगेन अभी जब लास्ट में गया हुआ था ना 16,000 पे तो आई बॉट सम बिटकॉइन मोस्टली आई थिंक आई एम बिग फैन ऑफ इथेरियम सो इथेरियम आई थिंक वुड बी द बिगेस्ट पोर्टफोलियो एंड उसके अलावा आई एम फैन ऑफ लाइक दीज ऐसा फन करेंसी so a little bit of Dogecoin and stuff, but there's another Indian company Polygon which is not doing good, to be honest. Right now it's doing very very bad. But I see some value in that. Plus when I used to do this part time as well. I used to build like smart contracts for a few other startups. So I used to use Polygon a lot, and I know the kind of ease they offer. So I like that product. So I bought, like, I think Polygon would be my second, no, sorry, not second, but in the top 3 portfolio holdings. So it's like Ethereum, Bitcoin, Polygon, and then yeah, mostly these 3.
Sir, if you bought Bitcoin at
Just
16,000, then why are you doing all this startup a lot? You are a great crypto investor. You should be focusing on that. That's the startup you need to build.
That's something which I used to think before 2022.
Uh,
2022 showed me my right place. I can't tell you how much money I have lost, and that too not because of my bad decisions, but because of somebody else's bad decision. I have around eight or $10,000 stuck in FTX. That is money which is there lying in fiat. Like it's not even devalued. It's just lying there in USDC. I was right along all of my investment, but FTX people were wrong. So I lost money because of such things. So now I know that I'm not a good investor, or at least I don't know how to make money in cryptocurrencies. So I just put in money and I forget about it. कि ठीक है, अब जैसा लोग कहते हैं कि 10 साल बाद बहुत बढ़ जाएगा, तो मैं कहा 10 साल बाद देखेंगे.
that's a good plan.
ठीक है. Okay, let's come to the concluding part of the episode. Dhruv, this is something we asked each guest when they come along, and this is something you have also highlighted in the discussion कि सैलरी के अलावा या इनकमिंग स्ट्रीम के अलावा you chose real estate and अपनी खुद की company as assets that will build over time. So the question is regarding FIRE. Do you know about FIRE, the concept?
Yeah, financial independence, retirement early.
Independence, retire.
Yeah.
हाँ. So the question is, do you have a specific FIRE number in mind? And if you could share it, that's one. And the second is what led to, what were the steps leading to coming to that number?
So, by the way, FIRE has like multiple definition. I don't know like what retirement, specifically retirement.
Financial,
I-
so actually FIRE ना हम भी थोड़ा loosely कर रहे हैं. Consider FIRE for this discussion as financial independence.
Yeah. So for me, financial independence means कि I can take bigger bets. Right now, although I'm working in a startup, but I'm still going for somewhat conservative ideas, things which I know might make money. For me, financial independence would mean that I will bet on an idea which will make money after 5 years, like the first money it can make after 5 years. So that's more research focused, deep tech kind of startups. For that, I think the number for me is somewhere around like 10 million to 15 million dollars. If I have that, I think, because as the way things are going, I feel like I would need $10 million.
So this is with the consideration कि आपके पास अगर $10 million हैं, so you can make those big bets, you can work on stuff that you like, and still be not bound by having to go back to a job,
Yeah.
do something that
And
you don't
to
like.
be very honest, 10 million is not a very conservative number. It's actually in a lower bracket.
Oh yeah,
Because
yeah,
when you're building a startup, the way it burns money, it's like the 10 million like vanishes. But I was in India. I'm in India, so I'm that Indian mindset. So I was like, कि नहीं, 10 million से हो जाएगा काम, मतलब 10 million is enough.
yeah. 10 million actually सर काफी करोड़ में कितने हुए 10 million
80
80
83 करोड़.
बहुत है सर
In India, वो इसलिए like because for
हाँ
me the number was around 100 crore. क्योंकि 100 crore तो बड़ा ही लगता है ना अपने को. So 10 million,
correct
I think it would be a good number for me to take that bet. Very honestly, I read a study for a complete financial independence. आज की date में, if you're living in US, 30 million is the number. 30 or 36 million is the number you need to have. So
oh,
that
okay.
way, just to put things in perspective, 10 million is actually not that big. But that's what I feel कि if I can have that somehow, then I can take bigger bets. I can be more risk free in terms of कि घूमने जाना है तो ऐसा plan नहीं करना पड़ेगा. Like you can still build your business and कोई किसी client से मिलने जाना है तो मैं US, then you can travel. तो उस टाइप की ऐसे fun चीजें भी कर सकते हो.
Got it.
मुझे इलॉन
ठीक है
मस्क की याद आ रही है. इलॉन मस्क sold PayPal and then put all of the money he got from that into Tesla, SpaceX, boring company.
Imagine he got like $100 million back then.
And
100 or 2
so we now know the valuation for Pipe already is between 10 and 15 million dollars is what is expected.
No, it's not. It's
Then
not. This is like
then big tech. Then you can start
this is
doing
like
deep tech investments.
this is like you speaking with Elon Musk when he was still building X, like the first X, and that too during first few months. So it's not valued as shit, but maybe in future it will be.
Maybe we are hoping for that.
yes we are
Yeah.
चलो thank you Dhruv been fun as always talking to you
Likewise, it is all mine.